Greetings miniature painting enthusiasts, my name is Will, otherwise known as the Paint Beast, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at the art of highlighting and detailing your miniatures. Welcome back. Highlighting is a crucial technique where you strategically apply lighter colours to bring out the details and definition of your miniatures. In this video, amongst others, we'll explore three key aspects of highlighting and detailing. Edge highlighting to create a sharp contrast and make those details pop, paying close attention to small parts of the miniature to make it stand out more, and the mixing of colours to give us better detail gradients. Mastering the art of highlighting and detailing like this takes patience and practice, and it does take a bit longer than most people are willing to spend painting miniatures, but I assure you that if you stick at it, the results are well worth it. Now, if you don't want to do this sort of extreme highlighting and detail step, you can stop at the second or third part of this video series, but I think this is a good look into how we apply detail to a miniature to take it from tabletop level through above tabletop and then to something more of a display level. And I'd definitely say that this is well worth it for your characters, HQ, champion minis, anything that you want people to focus on while you're either playing the game or you've got it on your display shelf. For me, I find this step well worth it because I enjoy painting quite a lot, so I bring pretty much all of the miniatures that I paint in an army to this level, and I find it fun and therapeutic and relaxing, which is, you know, a few extra benefits of painting the way that we do. If during this video you find it helpful and you like the content, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos or tutorials. And if you want to give me some extra support, you can find the link to my Patreon in the description below. And now that we've covered that message and the fundamentals, let's go over to the painting desk and get highlighting that miniature and bringing out the key details. So in my last video, I got us to this stage. It's the combination of the first two videos, which is the underpainting and the sort of colouring and using transparent paint, and then the layering on top. So you probably can't see the underpainting as much anymore, but it's still there and it's still important. The last video we focused on layering, so we built up these layers of colour over the underpainting and just made everything look a bit more defined. In this video we're going to concentrate on sort of highlighting and detailing the miniature. Now what I'm going to do in this video, because obviously this takes quite a long time to do, because we're now investing more of our time to make this particular mini look great. So this guy might be the leader of a squad or possibly an HQ or hero character, and we want to spend a little bit more time defining all of the features and making him stand out. Now, you don't have to do this to all of your miniatures. In fact, you obviously don't have to do it to any of your miniatures if you don't want to, but I do reserve this for my heroes, characters, etc. And if I'm feeling quite productive, I will do it on most of my miniatures. For instance, if you look at the Tyranids that are on my Instagram, I've done it to most of the Tyranids in the Leviathan set. Sort of brought them up to the stage where they're all detailed and they all look really nice. That's because my main hobby is painting. If your main hobby is playing, you might not want to do that, and that's absolutely fine. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just here to tell you how I do things. Now, what we're going to do is, in this video, obviously because I don't want to take up too much time, keeping these videos at about 30 to 45 minutes, I'm going to show you what to do for all of the colours on this miniature, but I'm going to focus on the head because that involves some of the lighter blue, some of the darker blue, some of the gold. I'm going to do this arm and one of the portions of the scales, the big scales on the back, just to show you how that works. And then I'm going to probably do some of the sort of like non-metallic gold stuff on the weapon. And then I'm going to go away and just finish the rest and show you what it's like when we come back. I'm not going to focus on any of this jade portion. We're going to save that for another video because what I want to do is try and make sort of like a glowing effect on the pattern inside to make it look as if the weapon is infused with energy. Okay, let's start and look at the equipment list. Now this is probably the most simple equipment list at the moment. We're going to have some paint, which I'll list. So I'm just getting my kitchen roll out. So I'm going to get a new bit of kitchen roll. As always, we've got our 2 pots of clean water, one to rinse the majority of the pigment off the brush, the second to rinse the brush just to make sure there's no pigment left on there. We've got our wet palette with some of the paper on top, and we've only got 5 paints in this episode. We've got Baharroth Blue, and that's going to be the highlight for pretty much everything, including the scales, because at this point what we want to do is we want to tie the miniature together, and we can do that by using the same colour for all of the highlights. We've got some Corax White, and we're going to use that for stuff like the teeth and the claws, etc. But also we're going to mix it with the Baharroth Blue to make some of the features stand out just a little bit more. I don't think that this gold is gold enough, so we're also going to just do a little bit of a glaze on that just to make it stand out a bit more. And these 2 colours are pretty much just for one detail, and that's the eyes. Now what I suggest, and you'll see me paint it like I just mentioned in the episode, I'm going to focus on showing you how I highlight everything, but pretty much on the face. I'll do a couple of these larger scales as well. But really what you want to think about is which part of this miniature will stand out most to somebody when they first look at it. And pretty much the answer in most cases, for most miniatures, is the face. Now most people will focus on the face. It's a subconscious trait that we have when we're looking at humanoid figures. For a different type of alien race or something, that might be different, but in this case we're probably going to look at the face first, because that's what we identify with the most when we communicate with other human beings. Obviously that's our sphere of influence. We only really communicate with human beings and some pets, and we almost always at first glance look them in the eye or in the face. So what do we need to do to start? Well, we're going to pop a bit of paper towel down. Sorry, that wasn't in the equipment list, but pop a bit of paper towel down because we're going to use that to control our paint. And it's this stage of painting where that really makes a difference. The other stages it does help and it's still pivotal, but here it's integral because we don't want too much paint on the highlight layers. Okay. So first things first, I'm actually going to add maybe one more thing into this. I'm going to bring some Lahmian Medium on as well, just in case I want to thin the paint but not the colour, which is an important distinguishing fact actually between two things. You use water to dilute the paint and the colour, so it makes everything thinner. You use a paint medium to dilute the colour, but not the consistency, because this is just clear paint. It will thin it a little bit, but it won't thin it as much as water. You can get thick or thin mediums. I'm just using the one from Games Workshop, really. Okay, so let's start. Let's shake up our Baharroth Blue. To give these a bit of a pre-shake. And I'm going to use water for this, and then I'll use the medium for the later stages. So I'm going to put a bit of water on the brush. A bit more. Pop that on the palette, swirl that around a bit, and then get a nice portion of that blue, pop that on the palette as well. And you can see this is quite thin, so we're just going to add a tiny bit more there, like that. Now there's quite a lot of pigment and water on the brush, so the first thing we're going to want to do, rinse it off in one pot, rinse it off in the other, draw all of the rest of the moisture out on the paper towel, and then go back to the paint, and we're going to make sure that the paint only goes about halfway up the bristles, maybe 2/3 of the way up, but never all the way up. I'm going to go back to the paper towel and we're going to take most of it away. Then on the miniature, I might zoom in a bit more just to demonstrate this. If we can see that there. Now I'm going to pick one of the middle scales possibly. So we'll go for this bottom scale here. We are going to draw a line, sorry, paint's probably drying a bit on my brush, so I'm going to add a bit more. There you go. We're going to draw a line on the uppermost part of the scale, just here. We could do that once or twice, but this is the way that you do it. So you pick the topmost surface, usually, to highlight. You just draw a few lines on there. Don't worry if you go over a little bit, I'm going to wipe that away with my finger just on the bottom. And then we're going to go again. We're going to build these layers of extreme highlights. There we go. You can see that kind of stands out a bit more now. Now I'm going to repeat that on the face, just to show you for demonstration purposes, and then obviously I'll come back at the end and show you how it looks. So we're going to get some more paint on the brush, making sure it doesn't go too far out the brush. Wick some off on the paper towel, and then if I can, there we go. We can do a bit of edge highlighting here. Now edge highlighting is where you use the side of the brush just to catch the edge of a surface, and I use my thumb to demonstrate. So where my nail is, we're going to put the edge of the brush on the thing, and we're going to go like that, and you can see that the paint is automatically being deposited just on the edge of my thumbnail. And that's exactly what we're going to do, albeit obviously on a bit of a smaller scale, but on one of the sections of the croc score's head. So we are going to do that on the face. I'm going to see if I can zoom in a little bit more. There we go. I'm going to be very gentle. And you can see actually I've missed a bit of the yellow on here, so I'm glad I've got that out still. Right, so just on sort of the top lip, we're going to do that with the very tip of our brush, just edge highlighting. I'm not drawing a line here. I'm just using the natural contours of the miniature to direct where the paint's going. And as I'm here, I can also get this detail here and this one here just by running it along, and then here as well. And you'll find there's going to be plenty of paint on your brush even though you've taken some of it away. Now we can probably get these bits here, and we're just going to be dabbing it on, drawing it down, and depositing the pigment where we take the brush off of the surface. There we go. And again, edge highlighting this surface here where his eye is. That's perfect for edge highlighting. So we're going to take our brush and we're just going to put the edge of it on this raised line. We're just going to pull it across. Down, across, off, down, across, off. And we're going to take the brush off at the point where we want the highlight to be brightest. And we can probably do the same here at the same time. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Let's zoom out again, see if that makes a difference from further away. Okay, so you can kind of see that working already. Like that. Now I don't want to just do edge highlights or very specific highlights. I kind of also want to try, and this is maybe a bit more of an advanced technique, but we're going to try anyway. I'm going to try like a glazing highlight just on the nose from where the dark scale, sorry my camera's not focusing, from where the dark scale is here down to the tip of the nose. So we're going to put some more paint on the brush like we've just seen. I'm going to put it on the paper towel, dab some of it away, and then we're going to go from the top here. We can use edge highlighting for this because the ridge is raised in the middle, sort of like a triangle, like a pyramid. And we're going to go from the top to the bottom, just like that. And this paint is super thin, by the way, to make a glaze. I actually might want to thicken that up a bit. I'm going to wipe that away with my finger. and just put a bit more paint on the palette. It's got a bit too thin. I think there's some water in on the palette that's sort of been drawn onto the paper. So I'm just going to put a tiny bit more, just mixing with that. And this is where you might want to use Lahmian Medium, but I'll show you that in a second with the next layer of paint. So back to the head here, we're going to just test this on our thumb first, just to make sure it's okay. Yeah, that's good consistency. And we are going to go from the top of the nose scale, I'm going to call it the nose scale. We go from the top of the nose scale all the way to the bottom where the actual nose is. You don't have to do this in one, you can keep doing that. We're going to do it on the side, and we're going to glaze it from there to there. Do another video dedicated to glazing one day, but for now we're just going to do that here. Please bear in mind that usually I paint with a magnifying glass, so this is going to probably look a bit rough when we get up close. But this is just for the principle of it. There you go. And you can see that that's much brighter now, and it's kind of given us a little bit of a fade between the top of the nose scale and the tip of the nose, sort of making that the brightest. And this whole section is just going to be about making the face sort of like the brightest area on the mini, so your face is drawn, so your eyes are drawn to it first. Your eyes are in your face, so I think that counts as a description. Okay, so let's just carry on with that for a little bit. We'll do that side of the face with Baharroth Blue all the way through. So let's zoom back in again. And it's important to kind of do this as well when you're painting miniature, because you're quite closer to it. Like here, you often almost can't see the wood for the trees. So we're looking here, we're quite close, and it's like, okay, yep, that looks like that. Now, I truly need to look at what that looks like on the entirety of the model. So I'm going to move it away from me quite far and just look to see how bright it looks from about half a metre away. Usually you see your miniatures from about, I don't know, maybe a metre and a half away, depending on where they are on the table. So, or in a case, a display case. So it's important just to get some perspective on how it is when it's close, and then how it is when it's further away. You can often spot differences and mistakes like that. So we're going to carry on with this side of the face. We're going to paint, like I said, this side of the face here first, and then move on. Let's get that in focus. There we are. Cool. So, I'm sorry if this goes blurry, but it's hard. It's very hard actually to do this. Didn't realise quite so much before I started painting these on a YouTube video how hard it was to actually film. I feel like people don't maybe know that unless they've tried themselves. Okay, cool. So I think that's going to be enough for me just on this bit before I go away and do it. And you can see it's one paint, just slightly thinned, and it just makes all that difference in making the nose stand out. And it takes the whole thing from sort of almost like a slap chop method with a bit of layering to something that is, you know, looks good to looking great, or at least I hope so. If you disagree, obviously put that in the comments. I'm more than happy to have a conversation about it. Okay, so now we're going to use the same colour on the scales to tie this whole miniature together. And that was kind of one of the points of why I mixed Abaddon green into the Iyanden blue when we were making the sort of larger scales darker. Just to keep that theme of colour running through, that Abaddon green sort of turquoise colour. And we're going to match that here by using this light blue for the scales. So I'm going to show you how to do these scales first, and then these scales. So we've put a bit more colour on the palette, just to make sure that it's the right consistency, because it'll start to dry out, etc. You put some on the brush, wick it away with the paper towel, and then on these scales here, we're going to start to find the most prominent ridges on this one, and we're going to take the line from there back to there. Right, I can see that this paint has gone too thin again. I think, like I said, the water has leached onto the palette. I'm just going to put some water on my brush and just wipe that away, leave it to dry. We can go on to the next set of scales now, and then go back to that last bit when it's dry. So I'm going to pop some more paint on the palette, but this time, instead of being silly and putting it on the same place, we're going to just relocate, put it further away where there probably isn't, or at least hopefully isn't, any water. I'm going to take a bit of water from our jar, clean water, mix that in, not too much. Wash the excess away, dab on a paper towel, pick some up, draw it away again, and then we're ready to paint the next set of scales, just to make sure that the ones where we made the mistake is completely dry. So we're going to be doing this one here. There, that's probably best. So from the top, sorry, from the most inside of the scale out to the side, and we are going to do that a few times. I'm going to do the same here, and the same here. There we go. This is, I mean, it was a tiny bit messy for me, but only because this isn't how I'm used to painting. Like I said, I'm used to using a magnifying lamp. And then we're going to just take these and we're going to just do more lines just on the sides. Just go along like this. Like that. You don't have to do too many of these, just enough so that you're comfortable. Then we can go over them again. And this takes practice, right? This isn't something you're going to be able to do straight away after watching this video. If it's what you want to do, you will have to practice at this. I think it's a common mistake that even I've made as a painter. So I've watched a YouTube video, go, okay, now I know how to do it, so I'm going to be able to do it. Unfortunately, that is not the case the entire time. You still need to put the practice in, which is fine, because that's part of the fun of the journey, right? Okay, now we've done those lines, and you can see that they've brightened up those darker scales a bit. We're just going to do some edge highlighting, like I've shown you on the face, along these. So we put paint on our brush, wicked all of the moisture away pretty much, and now we're going to put the side of the brush onto this raised area, and we're just going to draw it along like that, just to make a line. And that's it for the scales. It's the same thing. Same process as on the flesh. And now this is probably where you may have more difficulty. These scales that don't have sort of raised edges where you can easily edge highlight, you're going to have to draw a line around them. There's pretty much no other way around it if you want these to be highlighted. Again, you don't have to highlight them. Let's zoom in a bit more. See if we can get that to focus. There. Right, so pick this one. We want the topmost part of the scale to be the brightest, just there. So we're going to turn the mini around in our hand, just so that we can draw towards us, because it's much easier action for our hands to do. We're going to pick out that scale, just on the very edge. Just do this. Just realised that I forgot to tell you the make of the brush I'm using. It's a Raphael Kolinsky size 0. I use it for pretty much everything. You do have to practice at it to get this precise. But I promise you the practice is worth it. There you go, so that's quite quick just for 2, and we're going to leave it like that. We're going to step away again, like I explained. We're going to step away and just see if that looks good, which I think it does. I've had fun doing it, so you know, it hasn't taken too long to get to that stage. Obviously the whole miniature would take a lot more time. So now what do we do? Do we want to leave it that? Well, I wouldn't, because I find fun in not perfection, but making things really enhanced. And what am I going to do about it? Well, I'm going to add an extra layer of extreme highlighting just on the face, not on the scales, not on the body, just on the face, just to pick that out from the rest of the body of the miniature. How do I do that? Well, I'm going to add a bit of white in. Probably not everybody's favourite white, Corax White, because the Games Workshop whites tend to not be as good as most things. I'm using it because it translates well to other people's painting knowledge. I personally don't mind Games Workshop paints, but it doesn't really matter. It's only acrylic paints. You can get them any make and model around the world. It's not a big deal. If you want to put them into dropper bottles, fine. If you don't, equally fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to mix this with that, with a 1-to-1 ratio, which means 1 part Baharroth Blue, 1 part Corax White. And what we're going to do is use a bit of the Lahmian Medium just to make sure that the colour isn't thinner, but the paint... No, sorry. To make sure that the paint isn't thinner, but the colour is. So we'll shake these up. And then we're going to... Let's just zoom out. Yeah, this is slightly... There we go. We're going to put the white on the palette first. What that does is that ensures that we don't accidentally get blue into the paint. So we're going to put a nice dollop just there. Wash the brush. Once in the sort of more dirty water, once in the clean water. Take the water off the brush. And then we're going to put the equal amount, or at least equal amount-ish, of the blue paint also on the palette. Wonder if I can zoom in enough. Well, I'll have to do. Right. There we go. And we're going to mix that in like that to make a brighter colour. Now you could probably find a colour that's similar to this in the range that you choose to use. I quite like mixing paint. I think it gives me overall more control over my colours. But you know, it's just a point to learn, really. Now we're going to take some Lahmian Medium. We're going to probably put another 1 part in this paint on the brush. Thin it down. There we go. Wash the brush in the water. Take all the moisture off it, all the water off it. Grab some of this. We're going to check how thick it is or how thin it is. So as always, we're going to just pop it on the paper. Take our thumbnail. Draw a line. Brilliant. Flows really well. There's not too much coming off on the brush. And it's slightly transparent. That's perfect. I really want to put a drop of water in this. Can't tell you why. I think it's just because it's a habit at the moment. I'm not too used to using the mediums, really. But I just thought it was important to show you. So we're going to take some of this on the brush. Dab it off on there. And then on the face, we're just going to cover 50% of the area that we already have with this lighter paint. And I'll show you on probably the bottom lip. So we can use edge highlighting for this. Just going to go towards the very end and leave most of the pigment at the end, like that. Can you see? It's just very slightly lighter at the end. You do the same on this chin part. We're going to start halfway up and then draw down to the bottom. Same at the bottom here. We're going to go halfway from the top to the bottom. Same in the eye. On these sort of like scales around the mouth, just put a dot there. There you go. The last one may be a bit strong, but it doesn't really matter. And then here, you can do exactly the same, just down the edge of this nose part. And just on the side here. There you go. That's already looking much brighter, and that's perfect. That's exactly what we want. Brilliant. Now, what you can do from here is you can take it even further if you want. I'm going to go crazy and I'm going to add in some pure white. I just want to see what it looks like. You don't have to do this, and if it ends up not looking very good, you don't have to do it. So we're going to take some white. I'm going to thin it down with water this time because we want both the paint and the water to be thinner. Sorry, both the colour and the water to be thinner. Just going to make sure there's almost none on the brush. I'm going to come back to the face. Oh, I wonder if this will stay focused. It's so zoomed in. Right, I'm just going to do... So remember the first highlight we did? It was this entire line that we're looking at here, downwards. The second one was pretty much 50% of that. We're just going to put it right on the very end. I barely touch the miniature with my brush then. Same with this chin here, the chin part. Just a dot on the end. And then the same with the sort of cheekbone, just a dot on the end. And then the same with all these little scales as well. Just a very small, you're just using the very tip of the brush. Like that. Then we can probably try just on this sort of nostril cover. Or this part, you know, around the nostril there. You have to be really precise, and I know you're going to hate me for saying this, but it just takes practice. You won't be able to do it straight away, and I think being honest about that sets your expectations, but it also gives you something to aim for. And remember, at one point I couldn't do this. So there you go. So what we can do now is we can again take it away from our face a little bit, see how it looks, and what you'll notice now, we're going to do a comparison. So this is the left hand side of the miniature where we've done the highlights. That's the right hand side. Can you see how much that makes a difference? And this is how you get that nice defined look. You're going to just work on one section of the miniature at a time. You're going to build up those highlights. And in truth, it's layers of highlights, right? It's no real difference than layering. And in fact, I would say that layering in itself isn't a technique or a method. It's a process you can use on any type of effect. So glazing can have layers, highlights can have layers, contrast or transparent paints can have layers. We know that dry brushing can have layers because we saw that in the first video. Okay, cool. So that's how we paint highlights on the scales and the flesh. Like I said, the last part that I want to focus on is making this gold a little bit better. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to use an extreme highlight again. We're going to take our white paint, which we've already got on the palette. We're just going to select a few places on the weapon that need a bit more definition, and then we're going to glaze over it with some of the yellow contrast paint. Whoops. So let's clean our brushes and take the water off. We're going to grab this paint. It's still thin enough from the time before. Put that on the miniature. And we're going to... Right, we can see where the layering and the sort of slap chopping has made this the brightest, and we're just going to focus there. So we're going to take this bit here that's a bit brighter and make an extreme highlight just on that part there. Oops, a bit too far there. Going to do the same on this section here. We're going to use edge highlighting again. So that was edge highlighting there, edge highlighting here, here. If you go over a little bit, it doesn't matter. There's, you know, when you look at metal, it has like lots of different textures, so don't worry. We're going to do a bit here and here. We're just going to focus on the very sort of upward facing edges, like that. You might have to draw the lines in sometimes if you can't reach it with the edge of your brush. There we go. I think that's enough to demonstrate that. So that does look quite cool. That looks very non-metallic metal-y, I feel. But we just want to introduce a bit more of that bit more of that gold yellowy sort of tone in there. Again, kind of wiped out a little bit, but that's okay, it's all part of the process. How do we do that? I should probably use some more medium, but we're going to use the contrast medium for this. I'll write a list in the detail section of this video, because we've obviously gone a bit wayward on what equipment we're using. I didn't thoroughly think about it before I started the video. So I'm going to use that. Just for this example, I'm going to put it on my wet palette because I can't see my other palette around. So we're going to take a bit here, put it on here. I'm going to add a bit of water into this as well, so just a dab of water. I'm going to take a very, very, very small amount of this yellow, like a minuscule amount. That much. It's just on the tip of my brush there. Just there. See that? And we're going to mix it in here. See, that's quite strong still. Test it on the thumb. It's not too thick, that's quite good. Okay. Then what we're going to do, just take that thin paint, just brush it all over this area here. Like that. Don't worry if you go over the weapon a little bit, because we can rectify that in the next video. What we're doing here is we're just introducing a bit of the colour back into those highlights, but what we've done is we've made this sort of these lines a bit sharper. There you go. Cool. There. And again, we're going to try and do like a comparison now. So we're going to look at this side of the miniature compared to the next side. Sorry, compared to the other side. So there's that. Oh, my Alexa has just started playing, which is random. Alexa, stop please. Right, let's compare this. So that's the side that we've just added pigment contrast paint to. And this is so we don't. You can see one looks much more desaturated because it's not highlighted and it hasn't had that extra glaze on. This one looks much more colourful. What can we do to enhance this a bit more? Well, we can make this look a little bit more like metal just by adding some more white on it. So we're going to take the white we've already got on the palette. We're going to pick just some corners. Any bit that has, oh look, you can see where I've accidentally gone over onto the weapon there. That's okay, you won't be able to see that by the end of this paint, because what we'll do is we'll make it look like it's glowing different colours, or at least one colour. We're going to take the white that's on the palette and we're going to put it on, we're going to select some corners and make it look as if it's reflecting light. So we're going to put just one dot on the corner. You can go quite strong with this one. And this one here. Great. Obviously you've got to wait for this to dry. This hasn't dried properly, so please do as I say, not as I do. And then we'll do one there, just like that. And what I'll do is I'll do that all the way around this, all the metal, and you'll see the reflectiveness of it. What else are we going to do in this video? Oh yeah. Didn't know whether to save this for another video, but I'm going to do it here. We're going to try and paint the eyes. And again, I'm going to offer a hard truth here. There's no easy way to do eyes. I'm fairly sure that somebody would have found it and shared it already. You just have to put the hard work in to try and get the eyes to where they are. Funnily enough, it's easier to produce glowing eyes than it is to pick out the eyeball of a creature or a person on a miniature. Because when you're doing that, you're not so worried about the area around it, because you want it to glow. Whereas here we're trying to pick out a very, very small detail. Let's have a look. That's as far as I can zoom in. You can just about see it in there. So, wish me luck. I'm going to take my Phalanx Yellow, because I want the eye to be yellow with a sort of vertical pupil in it. I'm going to thin that down with some water. Just a tiny bit there. Oh, you can't see that there. We don't want this to be too thin because it will start to flow in all the recesses. We want just a tiny touch of water, just as if it's a layer. There we go. And we're going to... Right, lesson. Very good lesson here. It's very important that when you're painting stuff like this, in fact anything, when you're painting anything, any layers, anything like that, you have your wrists together. I balance my wrists on my desk. What this does is it provides stability. If I'm like this, I've got no stability. So if I'm trying to paint like this, my hands can wobble. I've not really got anything to support myself. So I'm putting my hands together like this, bracing them against each other and using my fingers and thumbs just to make sure that I'm being stable. Often people will say if I'm doing freehand, like on the Bretonnian Knight that's in my shorts, how do you get such a steady hand? This is the way to do it. And trust me, if you practice doing this with your arms on a desk, sitting in a nice upright position, your hands won't shake and you'll get much, much better and much, much quicker. So adopting that sort of wrists together stance, I'm going to try and get this yellow paint into the eyeball of this croc score. I'm going to turn the miniature to an angle that's easier for me to hit the target, basically, which is going to be the same line that my brush is sitting on when I put it against my palm. See that? That means that it's easier for me to get the tip of the brush in there. I'm sorry if this goes blurry. Right, here we go. Bearing in mind I do use a magnifying lamp pretty much all the time, I don't think that's too bad. Cool. So I've messed up a little bit, but we can rectify that at a later stage. You can see I've just kind of gone slightly underneath the eye. I think I need to add a bit more colour in there, so we're going to do that again. We can go back with a bit of black paint around that eye to tidy that up. So here we go. Focus on the face. I'm going to get my face as close as I can. There you go. That's much more bright in there now. It's important to breathe when you do that. Slow, steady, don't get too anxious about it, and just realise that you can always just paint over it again. You could leave it like that. That looks quite cool. It looks quite sort of like beastie, doesn't it? Like it's sort of a beast made for war. It doesn't have a pupil because it's so enraged. But what we're going to do is we're going to take some Abaddon Black, thin it down. Oh, this is almost run out. I need to get some more. Do I have another pot? Just looking to my right where all my other paints are. I don't have another pot, so I'll just have to get some at the shop. So reach right in. That's quite a lot, we don't need that much. Wipe it off the brush. Again, just make sure there's no excess water on the brush before we start painting this, but we do want a bit of water on the paint just to lubricate it a bit. You know, really make sure that there's no water on the brush because we don't want this to flow out of control. We're going to take you won't be able to see this on the brush because the paint is black and the brush bristles are dark. We're only going to put it on the very tip. Okay, so now we kind of almost want to do the opposite of what we did before. We want to go in almost directly and not at the same angle at the face. And we are going to try and do two things here. We're going to wipe away that bit at the bottom where I've gone overboard. Just there. And then we're going to try, without messing up the rest of the face. In hindsight, probably should have done this before I painted the highlights, but we live and we learn. Every day is a school day. We are going to try and get the pupil. So I'm sort of like poking at it. Just trying to sort of feel my way around without putting too much pressure there. Because I can't see the tip of the brush at the moment. There you go. That's okay, I think. That'll do for now. It's not very defined. Oh, that's okay. There you go. Now the camera has focused a little bit. I think that'll do for now, because we're at 45 minutes already. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go away and just paint the rest of this miniature in exactly the same way that you've just seen me do. If there are any important mistakes or lessons I learn, I will start filming again and put them in. But they're probably, well, hopefully there won't be, but I'll let you know if there are. Okay. So it's about an hour later, and I've finished all of the steps on each different section of colour, and you can see that it's looking pretty cool right now, even if I do say so myself. Now I appreciate that obviously this detailing stage takes a lot longer than each of the other steps. In fact, as you go up the chain of dry brushing, transparent paint, layering, detailing, each consecutive step gets a bit longer, which, yeah, it's fine if you don't want to do the last two steps. If you want to just get your army on the tabletop, or you're not comfortable doing it, or you don't like doing those things, that's absolutely fine. I really enjoy doing the layering and the highlighting, so that's why I do this. Like I said, if you want to choose which heroes or characters or HQ units or unit leaders you do this on, that's probably the most sensible way. But you can paint entire armies like this. You just have to put the time investment into it. I do that fairly regularly. And like I said, even though we highlighted over the entire miniature, we did focus pretty much just putting the most detail on the face, and you can see that's paid off. I think that because it's the brightest area on the miniature, you'll see that really stands out and draws the eye. So that's probably the top tip here, is if you're going to do this, choose a few areas that you think will draw focus and paint those to the best of your ability, and the rest will sort of follow along with it. We'll pick this up in another video. We'll make that look like it's glowing potentially, and then we'll do the base in another video as well. But for the mainstay, the 4 parts of this tutorial into, or at least look into, mastering the essentials of painting is complete. So thank you for watching. I'm going to hand back over to the Will, who's sitting and talking to the camera, and we'll see what he's got to say. Thanks for tuning in. If you've got any insights or constructive criticism or anything like that, just pop it in the comments and I'll reply. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining me on this session of highlighting and detailing miniatures. I really hope that you found some lessons useful. Please let me know in the comments if you did, or if you didn't. I mean, constructive criticism is also part of the bag, and I welcome that as well. As always, don't hesitate to experiment with your newfound skills. It will take a little while to master it, but once you do, everything will fall into place. And again, if you found it helpful, please like, comment and subscribe, making sure that you set your subscription tab to allow all notifications so that you don't miss a video or tutorial from me. And if you want to get a little bit more exclusive content and join the Paint community on Discord, then head over to my Patreon link, which is in the description below. you'll get access to a few extra exclusive goodies and treasures, and a direct line to ask me questions and painting advice. And that being said, thank you to my patrons, which you should see on the right hand side here, and a special thanks to the Beastigore tier, which is the top tier, to which I will now be giving you all a shout out. Andrew Maystone, Andy Smith, Gerardo Lopez Gill, Jake Trelaw, Jason Ozawagosh, Jeremy Williams, MC Van Wyck, Neil Buxton, Nicholas Paredes Carvajal, Rob Hassel, and Stephen. Yes, all of your support is very much appreciated, and I'll be bringing a lot more content to Patreon very soon. So, until next time, unleash the paint beast within and get painting that plastic. Happy painting. It's a bit of an extra just in case I absolutely smash out this recording, which is a definite impossibility. Anyway, greetings miniature enthusiasts, no painting enthusiasts. Right off the bat messed up.